Bookish Beauties. It is Tuesday, and that means it's time for Tuesday Talks. The question this week is, what is the most difficult, yet the most rewarding book that you've ever read? I actually have 3 answers for this one, broken into different categories. The book that I would say is the most difficult emotionally, yet rewarding because of the ending, would have to be Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. That book is just a journey of heartache, and it was just, at times, so painful. And though I have my issues with the ending because I wanted it to turn out differently, I do understand and I do feel satisfied with the ending. So it was rewarding. I'm glad for the benefit that I got out of reading it, but at the same time, it was a difficult read because it was just heartbreaking. The most difficult book to read because it was written in a way that made it sort of confusing and tedious at the same time would have to be Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. This book is kind of long. It does not go in chronological order, and it doesn't give you any sort of guideline to tell you when this particular chapter is taking place. You just sort of kind of jump around from person to person and place to place, and you just have to figure it out. So that made it difficult. It also could be really tedious at times. My theory on that one is that Joseph Heller is making a statement about war because he says in the book that war is tedious and confusing. And the book is written in a way that is tedious and confusing. Coincidence? I think not. But I am glad that I finished that book. It was a book that I read for school. I don't know for sure that I would have read it otherwise. I mean, it's on my TBR, but it might have been a while before I got to it. You know how that goes. I am glad to have read it and put together the pieces somewhat in a way that forms a story in my mind. I do feel like I have a sense of what the author was trying to get at with that particular book. But I have to say, what I find most difficult overall, and not because reading it was difficult, the actual reading it wasn't bad. It wasn't hard to understand, it wasn't really like heartbreaking or confusing in any way like that, but Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand is a book that's somewhat difficult because it's one of those books that its whole purpose is to make a political statement. Now the thing is, whether or not you agree with Ayn Rand, the thing that makes it rewarding is that it is just a really good story. There were times where I sort of put aside all the political agenda and just enjoyed the story, and it's a great story for that. Rand has a lot of really strong opinions on objectivism, and pretty much everything she writes is with her agenda in mind. And while she definitely makes some good points, I also realize that this book is written in a way that it is completely one-sided, so I don't know that the things that she talks about would happen the way that she makes them happen, though I could see things like that happening. Basically, in this world, the government is trying to make everybody completely equal. And by taking that to an extreme measure, it creates an environment where nobody feels like they should have to work any harder because working any harder doesn't get you any benefit. Nor does not working hard give you any real consequences. So of course what ends up happening is everybody slacks off and the entire economy pretty much crumbles and falls apart because nobody's allowed to make more money than any other company in their industry. It's a complete nightmare. And I could see some of the things in the book happening if the government were to put certain laws into place. But again, she is writing it definitely from one side with a very strong agenda, so obviously she's gonna be a little bit biased and write it in a way that proves her point. It's definitely a book that makes you think. I think it's somewhat difficult to talk about because of the strong political agenda. If you read through the reviews on this book, it's like, whoa. And one time I had a conversation with somebody in which I said, well, I think it's a really good story and I'm choosing to ignore the political agenda, and they pretty much told me that that was wrong and I couldn't do that, to which I say, watch me, it's still fiction. I'm glad that I've read it. I'm glad that I am able to talk about it. I agree with some parts of it. I disagree with some parts of it. It is really, really long, but I ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. It is, I think, a 3-part movie. So at some point I will watch that and see how it compares to the book. There were a lot of characters that I really enjoyed, and a lot of the storylines should be really interesting, so I don't know. Have you read it? What do you think? Tell me some books that you thought were really difficult but rewarding in the comments down below. Thanks for watching! Bye!